So Scott, what do you got going on right now?
Well, I've been kind of paying pretty close attention to, the actual crisis at the border, and it's really unusual because even during the last four presidents, even under Trump, they let the media in and to see what's going on. Um, and right now, under the Biden's administration, there is a media block on letting anybody see the conditions that these kids are in. And there are a lot of children, a lot. And we still have the kids in cages, but it has become so extreme. They were saying yesterday, and this was left and right media is very upset about being blocked basically from seeing these conditions. And they said that these facilities were designed to hold like 250, are now they're holding 4,000 kids, and over 10 to 15% of them are testing positive for COVID. So, and with the media not being allowed in to scrutinize whatever's going on, there's a lot of people complaining about it. Ted Cruz has got up there and tried to do his gonzo journalism, where they had a Biden, one of their lackeys who was basically being the blocker, get in front of his camera and saying you need to respect the privacy. And like, wait a minute, why are we respecting privacy now when we're trying to expose the conditions they're in? This isn't about privacy and getting the faces of children from another country. This is about looking at the conditions, because everybody should be concerned, especially when there's this large movement to, that kids won't be turned away. And a lot of people are sending their kids, and we all understand why. But at the same time, why would they block us from seeing the conditions that these kids are in? Because they need care, they need whatever they're going to do with these kids, whether it's try to reestablish a connection with their parents, because a lot of these children made their own way here, like on the rails through Mexico, and it just dangerous situations, because these people have heard that they're not turning away children. And it's getting way worse than it ever was as far as the overall conditions for people that have been, detained there at the border. It's from what I hear across all media, it's way worse than it ever was, but nobody can get in to see it because there's a block. What do you got?
Well, my thought on it is what you're saying. It reminds me of the fact of how sad that situation is because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter who it is, Democrats, Republicans, these people have always been used as political pawns. They don't care about them. They don't really care about them. And I mean, I, I, I tend to believe that when you have someone like uh, Julio Castro going down there, and I remember he made this big speech. We can't let this happen. These poor people, these awful conditions, we're going to do something about it. And as soon as it's Biden, I mean, he hasn't said a word. He's been very
Yeah,
quiet about the whole thing. You know,
he's
um,
completely avoided discussing the topic, and we've seen that he's been excessively reading cue cards with questions that were preset for him, so he doesn't screw up. I mean, he hasn't really been able to almost answer anything on the fly.
or you got the other side of it, Ted Cruz, who was, I mean, you could have thrown him in a blender under Trump and he would have been like, they shouldn't be in our country anyway. They're illegal. And now he's trying to, look at the condition. Well, come on, buddy. If you had a problem, if you didn't have a problem with it before, you should, you can't now. And that's the same way I feel to the Democrats. If you had a problem with it before, then you still need to have a problem with it. It didn't just get sunshine and lollipops because Biden's in charge. I do think there's like a bigger situation here that we do have to look at. And I do think this is one of, if not the main way that Biden can screw up 2022 and 2024, is he needs to handle this properly. Now, I don't think anybody, including a leftist like me, wants completely open borders. It's a bad idea. It's a bad move. We need borders. They're essential to, well, basically having a country. But I do think that one of the things that we have to do is we have to recognize that what we're doing caused this. to an extent. CIA, FBI, South America has been a playground for them. I mean, we just saw them, do a coup or attempt a coup in Venezuela a little more than a year ago. This is just what they do, and they cause so much instability that markets can't form, a proper economy can't form, and this is the fallout. Not to mention we are seeing, like you said, and it's completely true, more people ending up at the border than we have in a long time. But make note of this, that this is after a year of not of just complete stagnation. That plays a big deal into it. People feel like they can start moving now, but also COVID has just destroyed, like especially the Northern Triangle where a lot of these people are coming from, and places like Mexico, they're just saying no, we don't want these people here, or they're taking a very small amount of people. And it is something that we've got to deal with, and we have to have real conversations about it. We have to get with the governments of these three countries specifically, El Salvador, Honduras, and we say, look, why can't you guys keep a stable economy? Why are we having these problems? I guarantee you, you're gonna hear drugs is a big problem.
Oh,
The
of course.
cartels, yeah. Which, by the way, kind of on us. Like maybe we should stop doing so much drugs because we are the main reason why.
Or we just legalize drugs
Or we just legalize it, right? Which is yeah, that would be perfect. Um,
I mean, it's definitely a system-wide systemic problem because it even and I don't want to bleed over into anything right now, but it's even, touches on the issues with George Floyd. He was an addict and an opioid addict, and instead of, putting these people into prison and stuff like that, we put him into treatment, and it costs less. It costs a lot less to
it
put
does,
people into treatment than
yes.
it does. And I guarantee you, from somebody who's a very capitalist person for the most part, it does cost a lot less to put people in treatment than it does in any prison in the United States.
And better success rate as well. But yeah, I mean, we have a whole mountain of things to go through. That's just one part of it. Like I said before, the CIA, the FBI, we know, and I can't say it on record or whatever, but look, Operation Fast and Furious under Obama, where our CIA was sending guns to South America.
Acting like they could track them and they lost all of it.
Yeah, yeah, we know that happened. We know what they did. We know that we were arming the cartels so we could destabilize the area so we could come in and gain more control. And we probably, I don't have proof of this, but I'm sure we did it because a corporation wanted something down there. If you don't believe me, look into the banana
Oh yeah.
dictators, where that actually came from, the idea of a banana republic, and you'll see. I mean, going back to, Smedley Butler, I think our greatest American general who said war is a racket. Small little book. Read it. It's really interesting. He
Yeah, we're definitely
participated.
into destabilizing to
Yeah,
a point where we've done it, even especially Syria under the end of Obama's administration. It just bothers me to no end why the one non-Muslim based country they would destabilize and then literally arm the terrorists who went through and killed all the and remember, we're not religious, but they armed and went through and started executing all the Syrian Christians. And it's like, oh, you're one of these governments, we're one of these governments that wants to protect, the Western Christian way of life, yet we just enabled the terrorists down there with guns and weapons and everything else to slaughter them.
of course we did.
It just blows my freaking mind.
Because defense contracts, we want to be at war. I mean, a small amount of our country makes a lot of money being in
I'm telling
war.
you, the alien invasion would be great.
I mean, no, and I think, that has got to be addressed. That's one of the biggest things. And if we don't do that, if we're going to continue to destabilize South America, then we've got to profit off this. So I might be
Yeah, you
cra-
can't think it's easy for anybody to up and send their children. I mean, let's
no,
get realistic, because there's, even if you're, doesn't matter where you are in central Mexico or or South America, these parents know about what is going on all the way up through the cartels, through the sex trafficking, through everything else. You're talking about what these kids would have to avoid is unbelievable. And then you throw the cartels in the end of it. They were showing video the other day, and it was like Washington Post and some other reporters standing on the other side of the Rio Grande, and I said that funny, Grande, Rio
Ground.
Grande, and yeah, and there was active gunfire between some of the cartels. It was not between the police. It was between the separate. Those guys are unbelievably vicious. I mean, they took, yeah, they're almost the most. You can't think of any Nigerian death squad as just as bad as they are. I mean, they kill people for fun.
And that's the situation that we're in, and that, I should say that they're in, because here's the thing: these cartels know where you live. They're at your house all the time. They say, look, either your kid becomes a drug runner for me, which is pretty much instant death at some point, or a really, really bad existence, or we come in and we kill them or kill you. You have no
And you got to wonder
choice.
how much money, because they make billions of dollars, actually trickles up, not just the drugs, but the money. I mean, Texas Syndicate, there are so many Mexican gangs that are well established, all the way up to Chicago and New York. I mean, they're not just by the border. They are all through here.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say Mexican gang is the ones doing it though. Like if you watch like Drugs Inc., you can kind of see how it comes. And that's kind of the interesting thing. We don't have time for it, but actually farming the stuff, like coca leaves and
Mhm.
stuff, you don't make that much. You make very little. But when your other option is exactly like zero and poverty because there's no economy, what are you gonna
Oh, well, the
do?
people who do the actual farming
You know,
probably are so much slave labor.
oh,
But as
the drug mules, it's so little. I mean, these guys like
yeah,
it's not until it reaches America, Australia, and the Norwegian countries do they really like make a ton of money, like an insane amount. Drugs Inc. is really cool, like watching that
yeah.
and seeing how the whole thing
And
processes
I
out. But
understand why. Maybe not you as much as other people. Drugs are great, but some of them are worse than others, and people become addicted. And it, like I said, it's just such a huge problem, and we can blame ourselves for feeding on this, but at the same time, we're also being preyed upon, and then at the same time, we're being preyed upon by people who are enabled by our own government.
see, and that's where it really comes down to. And like I'm saying, we have to either fix this problem, and I don't even know how we would, honestly.
Well,
Like,
legalization, first of all,
okay,
would
yes,
cut a
yes,
leg off the problem.
yeah, no, that would be huge. Total legalization. I just don't see it happening. I can see us saying, look, we're going to put money into, um, basically SWAT teams that go down and clear. But I don't trust that at all. I don't
I
trust,
think they'd be
you know, I
outgunned.
I think that would, well, no, I think they would just work with them to make the situation worse so they destabilize and keep doing what they're doing. Like they don't have an incentive not to keep screwing South American countries over and making a profit, and more so taking minerals, taking land, and having a foothold in that entire, honestly, the entire, area.
Industry.
Yeah, I mean, from point A to point B. So my thought would be this: like, if I was president, here's what I would do. I would open up a couple thousand manufacturing plants, government owned manufacturing plants. People want to come across the border, cool. But you got to work at these for 2 to 4 years, something like that.
Go through your process of nationalization,
Yes,
you
we
know,
provide
and then
really a livable wage. We're not doing China. We're not slave labor. No,
give them a good path for their family members.
yeah, livable wage. Also, yeah, we want, for anyone who would say, yeah, but what about Americans? No, of course Americans can work. They need to. We need good Americans who are going to be good team leads and people who can also train and then, ultimately we can build up housing, we can build up manufacturing, we could actually start, I don't know, exporting crap and making stuff here. We
We
wouldn't
could
have to.
make China buy our stuff.
Exactly. We wouldn't have to rely on China. We have the workforce. We have We definitely already have the space and the land for it, and you could really turn this into be profitable for America and to
Yeah, I mean,
actually,
just take that war money and just put it towards something like this. At least, do it for 20 years and see what happens. I know 20
yeah,
years is a
yeah.
long time, but I guarantee we've been involved in the Afghanistan war for 20 years. So don't nobody bite me off on that.
No, exactly, exactly. And again, I say, everything, keep above board, benefits, good pay, provide housing, provide school, whatever. It, we can do all of that while nationalizing and well, getting them to meld into our country, but knowing more so that they're welcome in our country and we rely on them. That's a huge part, by the way. You
Yeah,
see, a
getting
lot of
people to know that there's a
Southern
path
America.
to citizenship that offers them not only, some stabilization, a stable family life. It would also reduce, people's, anxiety about illegals. I mean, both of
Yeah,
us
yeah.
have, Mexican family members, Mexican friends. I have Chinese roommates when I was in college. They were
Some of us,
fantastic.
some of us are Mexican,
Yeah.
like me,
And
but
and
yeah.
it's like all of us, we have no real reason to hate anyone. We what we need to do is direct the hate to where it really belongs. And well, unfortunately, that's pretty
Well,
much our government.
I would definitely say multiple governments are involved in that. But yeah, I mean, we have to go one way or the other with it. I'm afraid. This will be my last little point, but I'm afraid that my idea will never see the light of day, as no one has talked about it. And I believe that the we're going to use military force to take out the cartels is going to happen. And like I said, I just don't trust it. I
I
don't
just
see
don't think
why
they
they
could
would.
do enough damage. I don't think they're centralized enough to where we could, drop some Moabs, down bunker busters. And I mean,
Oh, we
next
can't.
thing you
We
know, we're still going
cannot do that. I mean, we'd have to do troops, boots on the ground. I mean, but we couldn't even. We're still in Afghanistan and Iraq. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, and even even when the Afghans ran Russia out of there, we went in and barely changed tactics for the longest time until we realized we weren't doing much damage to these people, and then in fact the recruitment went up. And not that the cartels are going to get recruitment from that; it's a little different, but still. The Afghans were doing the same thing with opiates. They were basically coming in and removing food from the local communities by paying these farmers to start making poppies. And then the next thing you know, we were letting them sell the poppy seeds to the CIA in return for, like, gun money. So it just happens everywhere. And it just seems like legalization is the only. And how long has it taken so far to even get a handful of states to
yeah,
decriminalize or fully legalize?
fully
I mean, at
legalized.
this
Yeah.
rate, yeah, I mean, you get some mushrooms and you could still go to jail in some states for intent to mass poison. You know how many mushrooms you have to eat, psilocybin, to kill yourself? You can't, because your stomach can't contain enough of it to kill yourself. It's like, it's just like all these things are classified wrong. We need a complete reevaluation of what's dangerous and what's not. And we need to stop funding this so we don't have masses of people throwing their children at us. And how many kids are dying. And we need, and I'll agree about the hypocrisy when it comes to using them as political pawns. But we do need to see, Biden needs to say, okay, we're going to let people see how this is going. You can't push the media. I don't care
No,
what part
no.
of the media. You got to let them in, because that really is the only difference between the past four administrations and Biden's is they've never cut off the media from that.
Yeah, no. And I mean, look, going back to the original topic, um, yeah, I agree with you in a wholeheartedly. And I think that if we're not going to be at a place where we fix anything, then we damn sure better provide for them. I mean, if this is our, if this is our state of being, and if we are going to, especially like Joe Biden, criticize what the previous administration did, then you better build them up something that is, sustainable and is something more akin um, to a normal, adequate living facility. Again, we have no idea because, like you said, they haven't let people in, but I assume
Yeah.
it's
And it's
not
really
that.
weird too. because we kind of all know what to expect, and we kind of know what the situation is. It's bad, but at the same time, ignoring the problem is not going to make it go away. And Biden blaming the previous administration for this is absolutely ridiculous.
It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't understand how he thinks this can be a positive for him. And
Pl-
then to unveil a $2 trillion infrastructure plan when we have an emergency on the border with children, it just, I don't know what to say.
well, yeah, we'll get into the infrastructure, but and I think it's yeah, it's completely ridiculous to blame the previous administration because the previous administration from that was the problem. The thing is that immigrants since going back to God the third the 20s, immigrants have been a political pawn no matter how you look at it. And this is just another version of that. And one other note just to say, when you say, and rightfully so, when you say throwing their children at us, they are, but also put them in a burning building and understand that's what
Oh
these
no,
people
no,
are
no,
going through.
no.
Like
They're
they are,
throwing their children at us because they
because
are in a
they're,
burning building.
yeah, they're burning alive. Like that's, we've got to fix that. Like at
And that's
some
why I
point.
said before, I mean, how bad must the conditions to be, which any parents would
Right, right.
actively send their kids on a 2,000-mile journey, with the risks that it takes. Your 12-year-old's protecting the 8-year-old girl. Good luck. There's some people are going to get here, but who knows what could happen to these children on the way. And whether of course, nobody wants, like, any of these people to masquerade or to use these children. Oh yeah, these are my kids, to get across the border. These kids are coming by themselves right now, so that's also they're unaccompanied, and that is what's the biggest increase, and that's just horrible for everybody.
It really is, yeah. And again, I wasn't trying to say that you didn't put that picture together. I was just, bringing light to the fact that, yeah, that's the situation that the parents
Yeah,
are
I
in.
don't want
So,
dead kids. I'm not into that. I'm not going to
yeah,
stand behind.
I don't want dead people at all, any of them. And yeah, we've got a lot of work. Again, that's another situation that we will definitely be monitoring. I think that's going to pop up way
Well,
more in the
let's hope
future.
Biden comes out of his closet, metaphorically, and starts attacking this problem like a president should, instead of continuing the White House basement.
I gotta be honest though, I wouldn't say like a president should because we haven't had a single president to actually deal with it. So
Yeah, that's true.